Okay, hello. Today I'm joined by Alan Orr. Thank you very much, Alan.
Well,
I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your martial arts background and maybe some of your main teachers and systems that you studied.
I'll do it really quick because I don't want to waste people's time because the stuff that's been out there a lot anyway. But I suppose I've been doing martial arts about 35 years. My main style is Wing Chun. I've been doing Wing Chun all that time. Started in Japanese martial arts, karate, iaido, aikido, and then I moved into Chinese martial arts. I studied um, Wing Chun with different teachers, and then I eventually met Robert Chu, who's my teacher now, and that's the lineage that I've been in and have been in for over 20 years, 25 years. My teacher is versed in a lot of Chinese martial arts, so I learned some Xingyi, Bagua, Tai Chi from him from when I first started doing Wing Chun with him. So we always looked at lots of different weapons training, different styles of training since day one with him. He's also a practitioner of Chinese medicine, which I am also as well. So we had that in common. So that was a big part of our training. And I learned his system, Master Dong system, that he's a master of. Um, Other martial arts, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I started doing Jiu-Jitsu over 20 years ago, and wrestling, catch wrestling was the first wrestling I did. I've done Greco freestyle, but mostly Jiu-Jitsu as a focus and no-gi Jiu-Jitsu. Um, I suppose other arts I've dabbled in is, my training partner Vic Hoti is a Sambo black belt, so I do some Sambo with him, try to do some Sambo with him. Um, yeah, mostly Chinese martial arts really is my big thing that I've been doing for a long, long time. Over the last 20 years, we've had a lot of fighters that I've taught. Not as many now, but the last 20 years, we've had probably 400 fights in MMA, kickboxing, boxing, all sorts of combat sports. So
Yeah.
we wanted to battle test our style of Wing Chun and understand how the arts work under pressure. So yeah, all that stuff's been documented. So I don't want to waste too much time on that. But yeah, there's lots and lots of stuff you can read about that or
Okay.
other interviews about that. Yeah, that's the basic background.
Okay, thanks for sort of being brief to give us a bit more time to talk about
Mm.
internal. So I have heard there's varying opinions on what how to define an internal martial art. I guess traditionally it was more used for the northern styles of Tai Chi, Xingyi, and Bagua. I think maybe you have a slightly broader um, definition of internal.
Uh,
There are a few people who
um,
just talk about internal
yeah,
Wing Chun. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, some people are trying to make Wing Chun an internal style. I mean, even I have courses where we say it's internal part of the training, but really for us, internal part of training isn't the same internal as Tai Chi, Xingyu, and Bagua because they're Neigong practices. And Vic Hoti, my training partner, is writing a book all about this. So that's going to be coming out soon. So you must read that book. Whatever style Chinese martial arts you do, Vic's book's going to be very important because he's a very good historian. He's a very good um, writer in terms of how he compares and contrasts information and how he collates information and researches is very
yeah.
thorough. So he's going to be a much better person. Someone you should interview
And could
down the
I?
line
Oh,
once
thanks.
it's
Yeah, and
out
could I just ask
for
about
sure.
obviously Nigong internal work would maybe be a translation of Nigong, but often it can mean quite different things
Sure.
in different systems.
Yeah.
Is it sort of a some systems maybe it's almost like a qigong set, and other systems?
Well, no, I would say, I mean, I'm paraphrasing Vic
Yeah,
because this is not my words as such, because this is stuff that he's referred to me with. Is more to do with the overall goal of the art of the practice, whether there's a spiritual practice and a more esoteric approach to the practice rather than just a physical set. Right?
yeah,
A physical set is training. It's just physical training. It becomes internalized, which is one thing I've been talking about. Is that internal isn't just I think me and Vic both agree that there isn't any such thing as external or internal training. You're just training, and some training is more obvious. You can see the training, so we call that external, and some training is less obvious to see, so we call that internal. So I use the term obvious skill and hidden skill, which you see in a lot of arts, like Senior
yeah.
uses that as a standard term, right? And I think that's really what the main difference is. Some people will look at a style and say, oh, this style is a hard style or soft style. Well, every style has hard and soft elements. Every style has external, internal elements. But where does the style focus itself? Now you could say Tai Chi is a soft style and it focuses on soft, but a lot of the Tai Chi I've seen, the good Tai Chi, is very powerful.
Yeah.
So is powerful soft or is powerful external? I mean, you could argue about the semantics of all these things all day long. I think the key thing is the development of chi. What does that mean? That's
Oh,
the
okay.
big debate, right? How
Yeah,
does
it
that
is a big
relate?
debate. I was quite keen to ask
Yeah,
about chi. Obviously, that's another quite controversial term, and obviously, maybe as an acupuncturist, I'm sure you acupuncturists maybe talk about many different types of chi.
yeah.
Do you sort of believe that chi is useful concept for a martial artist, or are
Well, I
you
think
more from a
yes,
health
yes, in some ways,
angle?
and I think this is the confusion. People look at demonstrations of Tai Chi in terms of pung and releasing force and expelling or repelling or issuing, and we all have them skills in our training. But is that the application or is that a training method, right? Does that train you a certain awareness, a certain skill that you can then utilize in a certain way? So for me, if you're looking about listening skill or repelling skill or how you control someone's weight, these are all skills that you use under pressure, right? Now, if you can use them under pressure, then when you use a release of powerful force and you're relaxed, it's going to be more powerful. If you're tense under pressure, you've got no skill. So I think a lot of the training is teaching the person to be super relaxed at all times. So when you're under pressure, you can mobilize your body in a way that's not tense.
Yeah,
So I think there's a lot more training aspects attributes that are gained from this type of training, not just, I'm going to repel and hit someone, they're going to go flying. It's going to be like a Street Fighter game. It's not like that because if it was that easy, you'll see every UFC fight would just step forward and just repel the person across the cage, right?
yeah,
That's not a skill that knocks people out. It's a skill that can move somebody, disrupt somebody, and if you're in a clinch position, it's a skill to take someone's balance for sure. In MMA, one of the things that my fighters have done well with is when we're in a clinch, we dominate in the clinch because we've got such good control of the clinch environment. From a striking perspective, from a balance perspective, we have these skills. But also, the biggest skill is being relaxed. When
yeah,
you're in a clinch, you're relaxed, you can think straight, you can be cognitive. That's the big skill, right? So I think a lot of these training methods, I think there's a bit of lost in translation that people think that they're directly related to how you defeat the opponent with one blow. I think some of it, there's aspects of release and Fagin that obviously can be quite strong and powerful. But I think a lot of the basic stuff that you see people doing in slow motion and some of the slow repelling that people do and get impressed with or not impressed with is actually a training method that's teaching you to feel pressure changes in the body and keep relaxed under some sort of tension. So I think people misread what the whole point is.
yeah. And actually, early on, you mentioned about spirituality. So I was quite interested to develop that further. I mean, are you mainly talking about sort of meditation and awareness when you talk about
Well,
spirituality, or?
it depends what it is for you. For some people, it's about a connection to the universe. It's about enlightenment, whatever that means for the individual, right? So some are classed as a vehicle towards enlightenment, because there's Taoist and Buddhist concepts intertwined with the arts. So if you remove them from the art's obviously something different. So depends on what your goals are.
Yeah. And certainly for me, I started meditating. It wasn't really a spiritual quest. It was more I was training with people who meditated, who were wiping the floor with me. And I kind of wanted some of what they had.
Mm.
So I guess for me, it was more about awareness more than, I don't know, a divine truth or a religious.
But
Um,
some of that is the release of ego, right? It's
yeah,
the one of the things that holds us back in martial arts is ego. One of the things that
definitely.
motivates us in martial arts is ego. So having that balance between ego is the key, right? If you've got no ego, then you don't really care about anything. So you just wander off to a cave and never come back, right? So that's a problem, right? You have to have some attachment, but no attachment. So that's
Yeah,
the dichotomy, right? So we're trying to get that balance between insecurity and ego for martial arts. If you're insecure, your ego becomes sensitive, right? If you're
yeah.
not insecure, your ego becomes more balanced, right? So we're trying to get that balance of insecurity and ego. So I think that's really where that meditative state or that understanding of yourself it comes into play.
And the ego sort of stops you from learning as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
just trying to
yeah,
win and afraid of losing,
yeah.
then you sort of miss those opportunities to notice.
Yeah, a lot of times people look at my clips and they're quite combative, and people say, "Oh, you're always beating your students up." I'm like, no, I'm putting them under pressure because the pressure environment is where you learn, and the pressure is graded towards what they can take, and also the pressure which they can't see is that person is maybe defending 4 or 5 attacks that they can't really see because it's adjustments in the body and then I get them on the fifth attack. So they actually defended 4 times before I got them. So that's
Yeah.
4 wins, not one loss.
Yeah. I mean, actually,
You
usually
see?
I'm not a huge fan of Wing Chun, but I do really like your Wing Chun, and especially the Chi Sao. Um, Quite a variety of ranges and
Yeah,
techniques
thank you.
you use. So
Yeah,
I was quite keen to get your ideas on the similarities and differences between a Chi Sao and Tai Chi push hands, and I guess even BJJ sort of
yeah,
stand up grappling. I mean, obviously they're kind of all at similar range. Um,
yeah.
I mean, how
So
do
for
you
me,
see them as?
the consistency is that you use your art, right? So what you see is people train Chi Sao, train push hands, train Jiu-Jitsu, train wrestling, but when they fight, some people just do whatever, right? Now, that's not the art, right? So when I do Jiu-Jitsu, if someone's trying to smash me, I'll still use my structure, my jiu-jitsu, my timing, my balance, and I'll wait for the opportunity, right? I won't rush to try to get out of the situation or rush to win. You just wait and be patient and use the art. If you're doing push hands and you break out of patterns and do all kind of crazy stuff and just try to throw someone and push them or grab them, that's not within the confinements of the art. So you're not really trying to grow the art. In Chisao, for the untrained eye, it might look undisciplined, but for us, everything is precisely where it should be. And the movement, the live movement, is the tracking of the pressure and the changes of pressure. So every art has its position and timing. You learn that position and timing, and then you apply it. But you don't apply it randomly, right? It's like being a sniper. You shoot one target over and over and over again, right? And then when you go to shoot a live target, you don't just spray everywhere, right? You've got to track the target and then bang, you just do one shot. It's still one shot at the right time. It's not just spray and pray, right?
Yeah,
So what I see a lot of is people do technical training and then when they apply it, it's all messy. So, and people might look at my stuff and think it looks messy because to me, it's again,
yeah.
it's what your
I
eyes
mean, is
train
that
for.
sort of the adrenaline
Um,
and stress? Do you think of
yeah,
kind
but
of
that
a?
shouldn't play into it because you should be so well versed in relaxing under pressure that the more pressure you get, the more relaxed you get. The more pressure I get, the more killer instinct switches on. Right? The more pressure I get, the more I want to slowly kill you. It's just my mind gets so focused on its job, and my art gets tighter and tighter because that's all I've got. I've only got my technique. So that's all I've got. So I go deeper into technique. You don't go deeper into going crazy and using too much power. It doesn't. That's not the art, right?
Yeah,
So to me, all them training modalities are designed to keep you focused on using the skill, and doesn't matter how much pressure you get, you just still use the skill. And if that doesn't work, it's fine. That's when you're training, right? You're training. You make a mistake, it doesn't work. You just keep doing it, and then it will start to work, right?
yeah. And is that maybe one of the main things that perhaps BJJ might have over Tai Chi is
Yeah,
just the pressure
yeah, that's what I
testing?
say. If you look at good BJJ, I've always said this before. To me, it's a level of internal skill because when you roll with someone who's good, it feels like they're just taking their time, and you feel helpless, right? And they feel so strong, but they're relaxed, right? They feel so powerful in their grip, but they're not tense. So when I roll my guys, I'm 53 this year. A lot of my guys are in their 19, 20-year olds. Yeah, they're all going crazy trying to kill me. I'm just relaxed and I can out train them, outpower them, outwork them, I can do everything I
Yeah.
can outdo them because
Um,
I'm not using strength. They think I am because they've become super
oh, hello. We've we've got cut off there. Oh, are you still there?
if your energy is being overused, you're burning chi, right? If you can't control your pressure, then you're going to lose energy, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so you got to be able to control pressure. So if you're scared or you're worried or you're stressed or you're tense, you're burning energy. That's why in jiu-jitsu you get white belts come in. They could be tough as nails, rugby player, strong guy, but they last 30 seconds because they burn out because they're stressed. They're not too sure what's going
yeah,
on. They're trying too hard, and then they might give you a bit of hassle for 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden they're tired, and you say, "Oh, we've got 6 minutes, yeah."
yeah,
It's like, "Oh my God," and then they go and puke up. Now, that guy's not necessarily unfit. It's not about fitness. It's not about
yeah,
strength. It's about your management of your energy, right? So to me, that's a form of your energy, a form of your chi. You have
yeah,
to manage. So that's part of the process of what we do, and we do the form slowly. All the Chinese martial arts have slow form training. It's not because we we defend ourselves slowly. We're training our nervous system. We're trained to relax our energy. We're trained to move smoothly and find the connection, the fractal movement in our body and control our muscle movement. So all them sort of things are we're trying to hardwire so they become natural to us.
Yeah, actually, you mentioned about sort of maybe with bigger, maybe more athletic guys. I mean, obviously, size is a huge advantage if you've got longer limbs,
Sure.
if you're more athletic.
Yeah.
I think you have already alluded to, I guess, how you deal with sort of larger, more athletic opponents. Could you maybe sort of talk a little bit more about, I guess, the influence of
Yeah, it depends on
physique?
your art and how your art functions, right? With Wing Chun and with Tai Chi, and with a lot of the Chinese martial arts, the idea is to control someone's balance, right? Because if you control their balance, you control their power. So Wing Chun, the style I do, we get very close, much closer than other styles of Wing Chun would say. Maybe they would say we're too close, but we get close, so we stop the person being able to rotate and use their power, and we can feel their center more and control the bridge more. Once
Yeah.
I can control your bridge, it's hard for you to get power, right?
Could you
Once I
sort of
can control
elaborate
your weight.
on bridge? I guess maybe Tai Chi people might not be familiar with the concept. It's
So
maybe more from the
bridge
Southern
contact is
styles.
a contact with you. So
Yeah.
a bridge contact usually is my forearm, first of all, touches your forearm. That's a bridge. So my job is to cross that bridge to get to your center or to feel your center through that bridge or to disrupt your center through that bridge. So I want to control the bridge, smash the bridge, suffocate the bridge, right? I need to control that because that conducts your pressure through your body, right? You to hit me, you have to come through your hand, right? You have to come through your body to your hand. So if I can disturb your bridge before you get there, when I cross it, it's like a streamlined iron bridge. And when you cross it, I make it into a rope bridge. So it's very unstable for you. So it's very hard for you to get your power to me
Yeah.
because your power has to go through this unstable bridge, right? And then once I break that bridge and get my body to you, my body's touching you, I'm close. I can manipulate your whole weight, right? So that's where a lot of the Swai Jiao, Mongolian wrestling, Tai Chi, a lot of the styles are very good at taking balance when they're close because I can really feel your center, right?
Yeah.
So
And certainly for me, when I'm doing push hands, that's the main thing I'm trying to do is find your balance, find your center,
yeah.
move that.
Mm.
So I did sort of want to move on a little bit to maybe discussing Wu. I think you've sort of mentioned this in some of the videos on your channel. Is it Alanor Wing Chun Academy, your
Yeah, yeah,
channel?
yeah.
Um,
Just type it in and you'll find it.
yeah, so I've sort of have been watching you, sort of done a few videos on what is Wu. So I'm quite curious. I mean, for me, I think of a Tai Chi Fagin demonstration, and maybe either no touch or minimal touch might send the opponent flying back a long way. Do you have anything maybe to add?
Well, my main Tai Chi teacher is Jim Uglo, and Jim said to me from day one, Tai Chi should work with Chi or without Chi, right? The art should work functionally with or without, right?
Yeah,
Because you can't rely upon on one thing, right? So you might build up your energy and have this explosive energy, but maybe one day you don't feel very well. You haven't got that, so you need the structural mechanics, right? You need to have the technique and application. So I think you need both, right? And I think Sifu is right about that. Um, I would say to me, in terms of like I said before, you have to decide what is that skill for, right? The skill of repelling somebody and to expand your force is about relaxing and changing the internal mechanics. So instead of pushing, you're expanding, right? Now that takes mental timing and understanding, and you have to reverse the way your body wants to work, right? It's counterintuitive. So when we're training it, we do it slowly because you're trying to get that feel. And then what happens is you get your training partner to be like my teacher teaches like A and B. So somebody's giving the pressure and receiving it, and that person's receiving it. They store it and they expand it, release it. So you get a it's like a Japanese ukitori relationship. One person's taking the four, one person's practicing, but you're both practicing something different at the same time, and then you swap. And that's part of the practice process. That's not the application process. That's the practice process to get the skill to build up. And then when people are practicing, often what they're doing is when they feel someone's got them, they let them build it up and practice it, but then they fall back as if it actually would have worked. But in
yeah,
reality, it wouldn't have done that really. They're just reacting to the pressure being correct. So they're just giving feedback. It's like giving feedback to the system to say, oh yeah, you had that right. Like when I'm rolling in jiu-jitsu with my lower belts, I get into a position where I've got the submission. I don't put it on. I just look at them and say, you know, and they go, oh, okay, just need to adjust. They feel that the position is going to come on, and I give them time to get out. They get out, and I put in a secondary submission. They have to get out of that one. I'm making them trying to think ahead. If I just keep doing the first submission and tapping them, and that was it, they won't really learn that they could have got out if they were just a little bit earlier. They could have, and then they won't learn if they got out just in time and they got out incorrectly, they fall into another trap. So we're trying to teach not just one thing, we're trying to teach multiple things at once because we need to multitask our learning process and not just think about what's in front of you. You need to think about the consequences of everything you do. Like playing chess, you don't just think about the one move all the time. Otherwise, the person's going to set you up all day long, right? You have to think about all your strategy of what every move can do and what the other person's moves can do. And if you did perform that move, what if they did this? What would happen? You need to have 5 scenarios in your head. That's giving you a complex matrix of moves, right? And
Yeah.
when you have all them fractals come together, you get a more holistic approach to what's going on rather than just what's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely, I think with the Fagin demos, a lot of the schools rely on very highly compliant students sort of giving away their structure, and maybe the real
Well,
skill is
you can't fudging somebody who's putting all the weight in one place because the idea is you have to get them slightly off balance so you can move them, right? So if you've got someone leaning on you, then you're gonna lose, you're gonna pull them, right? You're gonna throw them. You're not gonna try and press against them or expand against them. So it makes sense that obviously the person has to give a little bit for you to practice. And when you see people hop in and jumping back and fall or getting thrown back, that happens, right?
yeah,
Because when you take someone's balance and you go forward, their feet get taken out from them. So some of the hopping is just the practice of taking your feet off the ground so you don't fall over and you just hop out of the pressure
yeah,
and then you walk into it. Now, some people just take that to extreme where they feel a little bit of pressure and they hop back. It's too early. You felt the pressure, but you didn't get popped. So there's no need to hop back, So it makes it look hokey.
yeah,
And then obviously there's the element of people that just have this Pavlovian reaction to do that every time they get touched. I mean, I had one guy in my Wing Chun class once, and this was about maybe 15 years ago. Every time I touched him with my bridge, he fell over. I'm like, what are you doing? he's like, he's like, I can't take your pressure. I said, I just sunk my elbow. I just sunk my body. There was pressure on him. I sunk relaxed. It was correct, but he fell over. Now I'm training professional fighters, and they're not going to fall over when you put pressure on them.
yeah,
Just the opposite, right? So I'm like, what are you doing? And I couldn't work it out. And it wasn't until like years later when I was doing some more in-depth Tai Chi training with Vic Hoti, my training partner, and Vic really opened my eyes to some of the combat aspects of Tai Chi. So I got more into it because of Vic, really. But I realized when we were talking what was happening, it was that some people are so stiff and tense that when you put pressure on them and you sync correctly, it overloads their nervous system. Right? Their nervous system gets overloaded, and it feels like there's a massive pressure putting on their system. Now, if you're relaxed and you have combat skill, you don't get that kind of pressure from people because your body automatically is relaxed and you're not tense. And when you get pressure, you try to redirect it. But someone who's unskilled, like this guy that I was teaching, obviously was unskilled and stiff, and he had very tensile strengths. He was Afro-Caribbean, so he had very strong muscle. Like he never went to the gym, but he was in great shape, and great shape, great skin. Just really genetically gifted. But he was also stiff because the muscle was tight, so his fascia was probably tight. And having tight fascia, which is what you're trying to create in someone when you stretch them, he already had tight fascia. So when you put pressure on him, it just overloaded him. So it kind of
yeah,
makes sense how it works with the fascia connection. When you overload someone's fascia, it makes them tight. So someone's already genetically muscular and stiff, or they're just stiff anyway, right? And then it actually is easier to put pressure into them. But on the flip side, if they're muscular and tense, they can also have a massive tensile strength where they don't really have much sensitivity in their nervous system. So when you put pressure on, they don't even feel it. They're just so rock solid that I've had a few guys on who come to wrestling classes before, and you can see they're jacked on steroids. And when you touch them, they just feel unmovable because they're so stiff from the muscles being so contracted. They're hard work because you can't even bend their arm. I mean, eventually you beat them because they wear out. They get tired very quick because they're not trained. But for
yeah,
the first minute, it's a problem, right? Strength makes a difference, right? It doesn't matter if it's incorrect strength or correct strength. It's still hard work. You still need to deal with it.
yeah. And maybe the final thing if I wanted to talk about maybe is maybe the sort of Adam Mizner videos. I think we have sort of debated this perhaps sort of
Yeah,
online. So I guess somebody asked me, "Oh, can you tell how someone, how can you tell how good someone is just from watching them on a video? Do you sort of need to go and touch
yeah.
hands
I, I've
yourself
ne- I've
to?"
I've never been fortunate enough yet to train with Adam. Hopefully, I will soon. I've trained with some of his students, and I've followed some of his system. I don't train his system per se, but I do follow his system. I
Yeah.
think what he does is very good. I know people have
I mean, I'm sure you can
various.
understand why he's so controversial, though. I mean,
Yeah, I can
yeah,
understand, but I think it's people's own insecurities and it's their own problems, right? Yeah, that's I don't understand why people get upset about stuff they
yeah,
see they don't understand. When I look at what he does, I can see he's highly skilled. You can see his forms are very well put
yeah,
together. I can see his technique is very sharp. When I listen to his instructions, I've looked at his online instruction. His instruction is very, very clear and very deep. His progressions are very good. So when I see someone like that and I see them move with people, from my eye, I've trained MMA fighters for 25 years, and I've trained styles obviously like jiu-jitsu and wrestling where you have to be taking someone's pressure full on. I've got a trained eye. I can see the pressure control if it's there or not. I can
yeah,
tell you 100%. Anybody I look at, I can tell you if they're any good or not, right? Just by looking at them. I can tell you what their strengths and weaknesses are just by looking at them. When I look at Adam, I can see he's got very, very good listening skill. He's got very, very good timing. He sinks his weight very well. His technique is very sharp. He's a very skilled martial artist. Now,
yeah,
does that mean that works on everybody? No, of course. It doesn't work on everybody in terms of the way it does on some of his students, because some of his students will be more sensitive to it. Some of his students will want to comply more because they want to feel the flow of it. Some students will be a bit hokey and fall over all the time. Some students will be more robust and give you a bit of a push, and you'll get good
yeah,
work from them. And I can see from his students, his key students that are well known and at a teacher level, they all look good to me. They
yeah,
look good. So to me is a good show of a good teacher.
yeah,
Someone video of him saying, look at him, and it was 10 years ago, and he was struggling with somebody. They're both at 50-50 in push hands. That's 10 years ago. It takes 10 years to get a black belt. So that's like saying a white belt in
yeah,
jiu-jitsu. Look at him 10 years ago. He was rubbish. Yeah, he was a white belt. So
yeah,
10 years is a long time. And also he wasn't a white belt. At that time, he'd already trained quite a bit.
yeah,
And then 10 years later, he's trained quite a lot. So that's a big difference. I mean, I've had a black belt in jiu-jitsu for 10 years now. I'm a lot better now than I was 10 years ago. So, things change, right?
yeah. I mean,
And I think he's
certainly, I
highly skilled.
guess,
I think
yeah,
he's
my
highly skilled.
opinion is I do think that Adam has genuine skills, but I guess it's difficult to know if you don't have any reference, if you don't know how good the people he's pushing
Well, I've
around
met
are.
his students, and my training partner Vic has trained with him directly, and Vic
Yeah,
says high things about him. And Vic is
yeah,
the person I trust the most in martial arts. If Vic says he's good, then he's good.
that's good enough for you. Yeah. I think for me, that's maybe my main um, query is
Yeah, I think what
perhaps
happens is a lot of people are insecure about their own art. So they look at other people, they can't understand why they're doing it, how they're doing it. So then they don't want to believe that there's something they don't know.
yeah,
I think we have to accept sometimes there's things we don't know, So our job is to seek them out,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I think you need to touch hands with someone to really know.
Yeah,
I
but
guess
if you
that's
don't
my
bother to go
yeah,
and touch hands with them, then nothing to
yeah,
say, right?
yeah. No, I mean you can see if somebody has good structure. I guess the awareness maybe is more difficult to see.
Oh, well, you can see
Yeah,
that. I can see
yeah,
that. I mean, I've watched about a million MMA fights. I can tell you most of the time where the fights go in, who's doing what. You get an eye for watching things and seeing,
yeah,
who's got what skill. You do. And the people who don't have that eye is because they're not actually training real time anyway. So people who sometimes will say stuff about other people, they're not trained hard either. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they
No,
don't know what they're
I
I
accept.
train 4 hours a day. People are saying to me, "Oh, how long before I get as good as you?" And I just say never. And they say that's not very nice. I'm like, well, how often do you train? Once a week? Well, the answer is never. It's just basics. It's not. You still need to do the volume of work, right? Now, I
Yeah,
know for a fact Adam's a very diligent trainer. I've heard lots of things about his training from people
yeah,
that know him and people that I know. He trains hard and
yeah,
he's dedicated to the art. And also, he doesn't really care what people think because he's more interested in his development and his spiritual growth. So He cares if someone thinks they're better than you.
And I
Does he
guess
think he's the best fighter in the world? I think he does. I don't think he does. I think he
no,
just thinks he's good at what he does. So
yeah,
I've never seen a video of him telling people that he's better than anybody else, or someone else is doing it wrong and this is rubbish. And he doesn't talk like that. He just shows what he does, right?
yeah. I mean, do you think the meditation is a big part of how he got his skills?
He says it is. So
Yeah,
yeah, he said it is. So
yeah,
I would say yes. I mean, having a relaxed mind, right? Relaxing your mind is very important. Everything I see with people that struggle with things is because their mind's always thinking about the next thing and not what they're doing. So many times students are asking you what's next, and like nothing. And they say, "What do you mean?" So well, you can't do what I just showed you. So there's nothing next until that becomes something that you have, right? So people always want the next thing. They want to progress all the time. And I always say, progress what? Just do what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's the progressions come from the skills that you have. Once you got that skill, the door opens to another level, another layer. But you can't jump 6 layers, right? You can't jump. You know, you have to go through each layer, and your
yeah,
your awareness of the layers only come from experiencing each layer. There's an old story where the student gets given a piece of silk, and he thinks, "Oh, this is amazing." The next day, he gets another piece of silk, which is a better quality, and he goes, "Oh, this was even better." After 20 layers, the last one he's got is beautiful. He goes back to the first one, it's just like rough. It's like rough. This is rubbish, right? But
yeah.
before that was amazing. So your understanding of layers changes, right? Your perception of everything changes. So what was good now maybe is not good later, and what you thought you knew now later isn't what you thought it was, right?
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay, thanks a lot. I think we're about to run out of
All good.
time.
All right,
So
let's chat.
thanks a lot, Alan. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and
You're
talk to
very
me.
welcome.
Some really
You're welcome.
interesting thoughts. Actually, maybe one final question. Did I
Sure.
ask about chi, or
Yep.
yeah, maybe I
What's your
did.
question?
I think I did a sort of ask about chi, very briefly.
Yeah, when
Um,
Chinese immersion, there's lots of different cheese.
yeah,
It's different than what people call martial chi. Um, Chi
can
is
you?
just energy, right? So it can mean
Yeah,
many, many different things. How you cultivate that and how you use that is dependent on the art you train, the style of training you have. Whether you believe in Chi or not, it's not really important because you might not believe on lots of things, but they happen anyway. So,
yeah,
I mean, you breathe, our heart beats. If you ask someone, how does your heart beat? Most people don't know how their heart beats. And even Western medicine doesn't know why your heart beats. It just does, right? When we know when a sperm and egg comes together, a life is formed. We don't know why that happens. We know what chemicals are there, but we don't know what sparks are that, what happens. So there's lots of mysteries, right? So Chi
yeah,
can be one of the mysteries for most people. I think, obviously, when you train, controlling your breathing, relaxing your muscle tissue, understanding the flow of energy in your body, being aware. If you understand Chinese medicine and you understand the meridians, you can feel the meridians and you can experience the flow of energy because you can be aware of where the meridians are, where the points are. So
yeah,
that does help, right? So I believe in Qi as energy, and I believe in Qi as many different things. In Chinese medicine, you have different types of Qi. There's food Qi, there's air Qi, there's lots of different Qis, but people think that you can use a martial chi to win fights with. I think you can project energy. You can project energy for sure. But I don't think it's like a magical pulse
yeah.
that knocks people over, right? So you see a lot of this sort of
Like the
no
no
touch
touch
stuff.
stuff,
I
you
think
you wouldn't believe
I think what
that's
happens
possible.
is when you move with someone so smoothly, sometimes you can find their balance before they find their balance. And when I've hit people before, and I felt like I had hardly touched them. They've gone flying because the timing is just so perfect, right? But people will say it's like you didn't actually hit them. I did hit them, but it wasn't a lot of power and it wasn't a lot of depth. It just seemed to pulse through them. But there's not something I can do in demonstration slowly because I don't know what it is. It's just like a layer of skill that you get when you have that kind of timing. So, I think some of the chi demonstrations, some of them are a bit hokey and tricky. They're kind of not always what you think they are.
Yeah,
And some people, I haven't met someone directly myself that's super impressed me with the amount of chi that they have. I've met some people that are supposed to be chi masters that are supposed to be able to stop you from moving or doing stuff, and that hasn't happened. It doesn't work. So far, my experience so far is I've never experienced that type of chi. If it exists or not, I don't know.
yeah.
Um, I haven't experienced it yet, so that I don't know.
Oh, okay. I think we just have 2 minutes left. I was maybe one final question. You mentioned sort of fascia earlier on, and I know some people have sort of claimed that maybe the fascia meridians in the body link up with the acupuncture channels. Do you sort of think there's much ground to be gained by maybe studying the anatomy trains, sort of
Yeah,
fascia
yeah, of course. I
meridians?
mean,
Yeah,
the meridians and the fascia are separate things, but the meridians have muscle channels, which the muscle channels do relate to the fascia connection. So, in Chinese martial arts, we're always either trying to train our fascia or we're trying to control someone else's fascia a lot of times, where we're trying to stretch the fascia open and get that elastic force, or we're trying to stop the person using their fascia properly by stretching them so they can't contract properly. So that is part of normal Chinese martial arts training. So yeah, that's an important part of our training.
okay, great. Thanks a lot. It's really interesting to get your thoughts on that. Yeah, I think we'll finish up there. I have to dash off today, but thanks a lot for taking the
All good,
time.
you're welcome.
I really appreciate
Yeah,
your
anytime.
insights. And it's if you want to get more from Alan, it's is it Alan or Wing
Yeah,
Chun
Alan Orr, Wing
Academy?
Chun Academy. Just type in Alan Orr, it will come
Yeah,
up. And yeah, you want any questions, give me an email.
yeah.
Yeah, give me a
So some
text.
great
Yeah.
stuff on Alan's channel. Maybe it almost felt like very Tai Chi influenced Wing Chun in some of the.
Not really. Not really.
Okay,
No, that's the one thing I'm sort of against in that sense, in
yeah.
terms of what other people are doing. No, I think Chinese martial arts has crossovers, and I think everybody has things that they do specifically for their art, and there's things that cross over. Wing Chun is more of a ballistic striking art, and we strike and take center. Tai Chi will take center and strike, right? So they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. Good martial arts always looks the same in the end, like Sambo and Jiu Jitsu at a high level look the same. Wrestling